Hey guys, welcome to Requiem Comics. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Sean.
And today we will be reviewing a run very near and dear to my heart. We will be doing Flash number 92 through to 100, Volume 2, the Wally West run. And yeah.
So what's the name of this run, Jesse?
It's actually two arcs, but they connect a lot, so I thought it would be better to read them both at once. The first one, which introduces Impulse, Bart Allen, is Reckless Youth, and then it goes into Terminal Velocity. So, what did you think?
Overall, I liked it. I'm not a big Flash reader. I've never read Flash before. I love the TV show.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. But
And even that's fairly recent for you. You're very...
Well, I always had issues with the Flash because, quite honestly, he runs really fast. And when you try to explain that to someone, it sounds really stupid.
Oh, yeah. It sounds really dumb.
But when you actually get involved with the stories and, in particular, the TV show, it's more than that. And that's kind of what I like about it, is it actually does have these other powers that kind of evolve from the base ability to run really fast.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's more about the creativity of using that base power in as many ways as you can.
Yeah.
And it's also, I always really liked how it always sort of had its own little lore within the DC universe involving the legacy of the Flash and the idea of the Speedforce and all of that, which is actually introduced in this run. We have two main introductions. The Speedforce, which is still relevant today, and Bart Allen, Impulse. So
Yeah,
he's introduced in issue 92.
he's something.
Which, yeah.
Going back to what you'd asked me, what did I think? Overall, the story arcs are really good, and we'll get more into a recap in a moment. So, if you haven't read it, go read it. But
Seriously, go read it.
As for Impulse, I don't like Bart Allen. I find him to be very obnoxious. And
You have no heart.
I find him to be the stereotypical teenager. And he's kind of annoying. I understand, and again, we'll get into this when we do the recap. I understand that he's coming from the 30th century and he's aging to death really fast because he's running really fast.
He's spent his whole life in a VR simulator.
Yeah.
He has no concept of how the world works.
Which I get, but I don't know. I found him to be just kind of a little shit. I thought he was a little shit. He's a typical teenager.
I think that's kind of part of the fun of him.
Yeah, I get that, but I could have done without him.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, overall, the stories are really good. I enjoyed this run. And like I was saying, coming into the Flash as a non-Flash reader or someone who even has extensive DC history, this was really easy to jump in on.
Yeah.
I didn't have to know almost anything previous because this book, the way it is written, does such a phenomenal job of laying out background history that's relevant to what you're reading. And just overall, it's detailed enough without taking away from the art. So, I mean, I did enjoy it.
And going back to myself, my history with this book is basically that in high school, as I've talked about in the Teen Titans episode, I had a friend that collected Teen Titans. So I read a bit of that in high school, but the first time I actually really bought a graphic novel, and the thing that really got me buying comics was this story. I picked up the Terminal Velocity book on a complete whim. I thought that the Flash was a fun character in the Justice League cartoon. Didn't necessarily have the same attachment to him that I do now, but I was like, oh, he's a fun character. I kind of wonder what his solo story would be like. And I was a fan of Bart Allen from Teen Titans.
That's because you're very similar to him.
Yeah.
You have ADD and you're impulsive.
Yeah.
So I can see why you relate to Bart Allen.
Yeah.
So continue. Sorry.
So, and especially when I was younger, when I was 14, 15.
Fair.
So, I picked up this book and I instantly fell in love with this run. I ended up buying all of the Mark Waid trades, all the Jeff John trades, really quickly. And I've been a lifelong Flash fan ever since, but I think that Mark Waid's run is what really defined a lot of what I love about the character. I really love what he did with the character of Wally West and the character journey that he took him on. I love what he did in terms of expanding the lore, where, you know, you have things like the Speedforce, you have characters like Bart Allen, Max Mercury, as opposed to just kind of the three basic Flashes that you had before. It opened up the Flash world a lot more, and it was also sort of the story that really, because this book, so much of what makes it great is that it plays on comic book history so well. And it's a story that you can really only have in comic book format because of the way that the captions are lined out and the way that it walks you through Wally's thought process.
Yeah.
And it really made me fall in love with the medium. So this book has always been one that's been very special to me. I think that, especially for this character, from about 92 to about 118, it's a perfect run. I would give that as a comic book run. Mark Waid's run went on longer, and it started before then, and there's tons of great stuff, you know, not in that chunk. Like Return of Barry Allen is one of the greatest Flash stories ever. I really like Chain Lightning and the Dark Flash saga, which he also did. But that stretch, the triple threat of Terminal Velocity, Dead Heat, and Race Against Time, I think is just the pinnacle of amazing Flash stories, and it revolutionized the character to me.
That's fair. You're quite the fanboy.
Yeah.
So I guess quickly, let's just recap what the two stories, I guess, because like you said, it's two stories that kind of merge into one bigger overall kind of arc.
Yeah.
So it starts off with Wally West, the Flash.
Well, actually, let's talk about Wally West for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Because you've pretty much only been exposed to Barry Allen. Your only other real exposure to Wally West was in the Rebirth special that we read,
which was pretty good. I enjoyed the Rebirth run that I read.
Mm-hmm.
I mean the special, which we have an episode for, so check it out. It was good, but again, there's some things like with Wally West that, as you've mentioned, you see a lot of those characteristics in the TV show with Barry Allen in the show.
Yeah, they do, in my opinion, at least in the show, merge the two Flashes together a lot. And that makes sense because Wally was the Flash for 25 years. And throughout his tenure as the Flash, a lot was added to the character. And a lot evolved in terms of the book during that 25 years. So it makes sense that they would take some of those elements.
That's fair. So, I mean, overall with Wally West, at least in the comics, beside the fact that he's a total bum because he doesn't have a job.
He's had jobs.
He's had jobs. So what, he's in between jobs?
He has jobs.
Is he Scott Pilgrim?
He does stuff.
He does stuff?
Okay. But overall,
beside that, no, as a character, he's pretty calculated. He's smart. He's got like that Barry Allen smartness to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have a tendency to be a little more impulsive.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, kind of why Bart Allen in this run particularly pairs very well with him, because they have similar personality traits.
But they hate each other because of it.
Well, they can't stand each other.
Yeah.
To the point where Barry actually decides that Jesse Quick is going to be, you know, his legacy carry-on, and Impulse was basically going to hit the curb.
Mm-hmm. But even then, he actually considers Impulse the real legacy character, and he's just trying to
get him
whip him into shape.
Yeah, smarten the fuck up and act like a fucking superhero. But that's, I mean, again, his character, his personality is, he would be someone I feel like you could go for a drink with.
Wally?
And, yeah.
Well, that's the thing that I think really sets him apart from Barry Allen. I think that Barry Allen as a character, less so nowadays since they've brought him back, but even still, he's always sort of been that paragon of virtue.
He's like Superman.
He is in a lot of ways. Wally West, I think, brought a very human quality to the book. He's not perfect. He makes mistakes, but ultimately he has a good heart and wants to help people, and he overcomes those shortcomings, and that's also expressed throughout his power upgrades throughout the series. The more he matures, the more his powers mature with him.
It's fair. Again, I don't really know him that well. I've only read this run.
Yeah.
But it is more than I've ever read of Barry
And
Allen.
he's also, sorry to cut you off, but he's also like the pretty much the only sidekick that has successfully lived up to the promise and actually replaced the hero and kind of grown into that role. He's done the apprenticeship, and now he's kind of grown into...
It's the whole teacher becomes the master kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right?
He's the one hero that did that, especially for that extended amount of time. Dick Grayson has become Batman, but it's only been in short increments, and we always knew that Bruce Wayne was coming back. During this time, Barry Allen was dead forever.
Again, he's pretty cool. But my exposure to him is comic based only. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's obviously in the TV show, but he's not a major role in the TV show.
Yeah.
And the reality is that Barry Allen being the central character in the TV show is kind of always what's shaped my view of the Flash.
Right.
So after reading this, I can definitely see where the elements like these where you say Barry Allen in the TV show is very similar to Wally West in the comics. Mm-hmm. They kind of have this rebellious attitude, but they're not entirely aloof.
I think even in terms of a lot of the relationship drama and the way that they have a team dynamic, it's a different team from the TV show to the book, but a lot of that dynamic, I think, comes from this run.
That's fair. But yeah, so recap us.
Okay, cool. I'm going to try and be as brief with this as possible. Because I think, I don't know about you guys, comment and let us know, but I think it's more interesting when we talk about themes and characters and stuff, so I kind of like to keep the recap as short as possible. But basically, we start off with Linda Park investigating this organization called Cobra. They're killing off different religious groups, and no one seems to really know where they come from. So through that investigation, Cobra starts sending off units after her to go after her. And while this is going on, Bart Allen arrives from the future with Iris West. Now, Iris has been dead for a number of years in the comics, but she wasn't really dead. She was living in the future. Barry Allen lived with her for a short amount of time before dying. Yeah. And now her grandson has this accelerated aging problem and decides to take him back to Wally West to get Wally to help with that. So Wally's dealing with this while Linda's being attacked by an army of dudes in snake costumes.
Psycho cult people.
Yeah, so she calls up Pied Piper, Argus, who's basically this 90s vigilante dude. I think he still's around, like, in a very minor way. Like, I think he pops up every now and then, but he's pretty much was one of those vigilantes that were all the rage in the 90s that were popping out everywhere.
Fair.
So he shows up and basically ends up knocking himself out accidentally. But what I really liked about this part is you really kind of get a feel for how Linda is not just that superhero's girlfriend that needs to constantly be saved. She handles things herself.
Oh, fuck yeah. She's a strong, independent person.
She is a badass.
When you get further through this run, she fucking picks up a machine gun and she starts fucking shooting people.
Yeah.
She goes fucking bonkers, man. I would not fuck with her.
No.
But yeah,
when they get back to the house, like she's the one pulling everyone to. Even Pied Piper is like, "Oh, Iris West is alive," and she's like, "Yo, focus. We're in the middle of shit." Like, she takes a very strong leadership role as well, which I really like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So eventually, the Snake guys kind of go away for now, and Bart Allen comes back to the house, and we really get to start knowing him. Him and Wally hate each other because they are so similar.
Well, their personalities clash.
Yeah, but Iris kind of wants to leave Bart with him as a sidekick, which Wally's not a fan of. He doesn't do sidekicks.
Even though he was a sidekick.
Yeah.
How fucking arrogant is that? Oh, I don't do sidekicks. You started as a sidekick.
Yeah.
Fuck you. What would you have done if Barry said that, buddy? Come on.
Yeah. Well, he's not Barry.
Wally West. Psh.
Wally's awesome.
Moving on.
So basically, before long, they decide to go and investigate one of the strongholds. So they go there. Wally tries to go in quietly and actually sort of investigate things, but Impulse screws everything up.
He runs in there and starts punching soldiers.
Yeah.
Which obviously alerts Cobra's attention. that they're breaking in and stealing secrets.
What does it say? He's like a pinball with arms?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Mark Waid's descriptions with super speed and stuff in this book,
Fair.
by the way. You can feel it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's very well articulated.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah.
You feel the feeling of breaking the Speedforce. You feel what it's like to vibrate through a wall. You know,
Yeah.
he describes all this stuff really, really well.
Without taking up 95% of the page.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Mm-hmm. It's the perfect amount of writing.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think. So they go to check it out. Abracadabra's there. Things start getting a little weird because Abracadabra starts shifting into various different costumes he had because time screwed up and we're interrupted by 0 Hour.
Which we didn't read. There's a reason for that, and I'll get to that when we're done the recap. So continuing on.
So 0 Hour happens, and there is an issue in between here that we also didn't read, issue 0, which I'll touch on briefly. Basically, it's sort of a recap of Wally's history, where after 0 Hour, he's being flung around the time stream, and he's going to big moments in his life, like the moment Barry died, the moment he got his powers, and this all kind of culminates into one moment when he was a kid, and his parents were kind of always like, dreams are for idiots, you need to like focus on like growing up and getting a real job, and so this person, so basically Wally ends up kind of visiting himself when he was younger and sort of inspiring himself. And it's very, very well written, as all Mark Waid stuff always is. Yeah, so that happened. We didn't read it because I don't own that issue, but I just thought I would touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing too is that as soon as you jump back into the main run, it does a really good recap in like 2 pages of what happened in 0 there.
Well, yeah, because you have Wally, he's still making his way back.
Yeah.
He's still being flung around the time stream, seeing different visions. One of the future, which ends up being very important in this story. But you have everyone else back home kind of waiting for him to get back, and Jay Garrick's explaining to everyone that wasn't there what happened.
Yeah. So then going forward from there.
So then we get into Terminal Velocity, which I think is one of the best Flash arcs ever made. It's very well done. It revolutionized the book. It hits all the emotional points that I think it tries to hit. It's smart. There's funny moments. It has everything.
Yeah. So the main premise is that
carrying on with the whole Cobra thing.
Yeah, Cobra is harnessing alternate energy sources like wind power and solar power to power up this project he has called Project Morpheus. Mm-hmm. The whole point of this is he wants to collect as much power as he can so that he can use this seismic shifter device to essentially crumble everything into the Earth's core. Mm-hmm. He's trying to destroy the planet by collapsing the land masses on the planet. And his main setup is located in Midwest America, it's just outside of Keystone City there.
And because the Flash and Impulse have crashed this facility, he decides that he's going to move this project up. Yeah. And it's happening now.
I think the book actually says it wasn't supposed to happen for like another century or something. It's like, nope, we're going to do it tomorrow. Yeah. Because, shit out of luck, we need to do it now. Mm-hmm. So what happens is Barry, Impulse, Max Mercury.
You mean Wally?
I said Barry, didn't I?
You said Barry.
Whatever.
Wait, before we get to Max Mercury,
No, I'm just saying.
Okay.
So Jesse Quick, what they do is they all decide they're going to get together, they're going to go find the alternate energy sources, these power plants that he has, and they're going to destroy them.
Yeah. So Wally and Impulse tip them off. So they're doing this earlier, but Wally basically starts prepping Impulse to be. Suddenly he's kind of turned around where he's like, okay, now I'm mentoring him because he needs to.
He also cured him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's happens.
Important to note too. He also cured him.
Yeah, with the whole aging thing.
By being able to control his speed and his impulsive behavior, it stops him from aging out of control.
Yeah.
So that is a pretty key point.
Yeah. So he sees a vision of the future, and it kind of leads you to believe that Wally's seeing his own death, but he's really seeing Linda's death.
Yeah.
So he's going through all these extreme measures to try and prevent it. He's trying to train Impulse properly because he thinks that might give him the edge at the end of the day. And this actually causes a fight with Wally and Linda because he won't tell her what's going on. Yeah. And she notices that he's not telling her what's going on. Especially when Max Mercury shows up at his house and he's like, oh man, I feel so bad. I've been lying to Linda about all this stuff. And she's like in the next room and is like, I heard all that.
Yeah. So she then continues to kind of pressure him to reveal what's really going on. And a lot of the issues here are, this internal struggle that he has about telling her what's going on, even though he doesn't want to, because the main thing is he doesn't want her to be in danger.
Well, that's the whole thing. I think he's looking at it from like the whole idea of like in Doctor Who, once it's written in stone.
Yeah, time is set and that's it.
Yeah, so I think he kind of feels like if he actually says it, then it's destined to happen.
Yeah. Power in words.
Yeah. So Max Mercury is at his house. You get these like really cool couple panels where he's like staring at a snail on his arm. Max Mercury is the Zen guru of the Speedforce, basically.
It's not called the Speedforce yet, though.
Yeah.
You also do get a little bit of a background story on him too, which is kind of cool.
It's a really cool background story. He's from what, the 1700s?
Yeah, the 1700s.
Yeah.
The Western United States. He's Aboriginal, and he gets the power of the Speedforce. He then ends up getting drawn towards this light.
Yeah, he ends up getting the power from this tribe to run basically halfway across the country and warn this other tribe of an attack that's coming. And so he spends the next few years kind of trying to create peace between the natives and, people coming from England and stuff.
Yeah, the imperialists.
Yeah, exactly.
The imperialists.
The imperialists. And basically one night he feels a calling. That calling is the Speedforce. But as he gets closer and closer, he kind of blinks and gets thrown into the time stream and ends up
in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Then he realizes he's stuck, and then he continues to do this until he ends up in, I guess, the 1990s.
Yeah, the 40s at one point.
The 40s or wherever he...
And then the 90s, yeah.
So I like that you got that little bit of a background story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not someone who is familiar with who he is. So to have this character kind of show up, but then to have his background briefly explained to me made it so much easier to follow. He is not just some total stranger who showed up. Mm-hmm. He actually has a reason for being there now.
But he does have that kind of cool, mysterious element to him.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I really like about that, too, is that with Max Mercury, because he's experienced this hitting the, faster than the speed of light, since he's done this several times and he's still not really sure what happened, I keep doing that. Wally, who is now experiencing this calling and this urge to kind of go faster than light, Max is able to kind of help him ground himself so that he can focus on the task at hand, which is stopping Cobra from destroying the planet with this super seismic device that's going to destroy the continents.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, Wally is trying to balance between losing his humanity and still being able to stop this threat and deal with preventing Linda's death.
Yes.
So he's got a lot on his plate in this story. So Max Mercury ends up kind of gathering him and Impulse and Jay Garrick, Jesse Quick, and basically explains the whole Speedforce thing and his background and everything. And Wally basically decides, as we mentioned earlier, that Impulse is not going to be the next Flash. It's going to be Jesse Quick.
Because she deserved it.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I like, too, is that they kind of explain how she has her power. She's not the typical speedster like Wally West or Impulse. She uses a mantra, which is actually the Speedforce formula, and that's how she's able to harness the power of the Speedforce. I love that science element to it.
But I love how Johnny Quick, who's the one that kind of created that, does not believe in the Speedforce whatsoever.
Which is that's interesting.
So you have different sides of the argument too. You have the skeptics and you have the believers.
Which when we get to the end of this, I'll explain why I'm giving it the rating I'm giving it, because science is awesome and anything other than science is not so awesome.
I disagree.
But continuing on, so Jesse is now being the heir appoint to.
Yeah, except Wally's not actually putting Jesse Quick.
No, when he tells her that, she gets pretty pissed.
Yeah.
And then she gets injured, ironically. She actually fucks her
Saving
leg up.
Linda.
Yeah, saving Linda.
From the...
But the thing I
what
liked
he
about
thinks
her,
is supposed to be the attack.
the thing I liked about Jessie is that even though she's pissed off as hell because he fucking lied to her, you're not actually going to be the Flash. It's going to be Bart Allen over there. I just needed to kind of
He was
whip him
completely
into shape.
useless, yeah. I just wanted to give him a scare.
Despite being super pissed, she's still able to do the task at hand. She puts that aside until later. And she even says, like, later, we'll discuss this later, but right now we have other shit to worry about.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that she was, focused enough to put that aside for now and beat Cobra from destroying the planet.
Yeah. So, I mean, soon after that, we start getting towards the finale, and basically this huge bubble forms around Keystone City, and the city starts getting destroyed. All of Cobra's dudes end up starting to get super powered around the globe, and heroes everywhere are trying to fight them off.
Something else I loved is that it's always kind of bugged me with some comics is like when a really big event is going on in one comic person's run, it's like, where the fuck are all the other characters that have these super teams? Where the fuck's the Justice League when this is happening?
Yeah.
This actually went and showed what they were doing. Superman's in Metropolis dealing with Cobra soldiers. Batman and Robin are fighting Cobra soldiers.
Yeah.
Steel is fighting Cobra soldiers.
Flash just happens to be in the eye of the storm.
Which is awesome because I remember I was sitting there reading this going, just call Superman. What the fuck? Just call Superman. And then you flip the page and it's Superman and he's busy dealing with his own shit what happens to be tied to this. And I was like, that's awesome.
So finally, at the end of the day, the moment of destiny comes, and Linda Park is getting shot as he sees in his vision, and he ends up sacrificing himself and joining into the Speedforce, which he knows he can't come back from in order to save her.
Punches faster than the speed of light.
Yeah, and he has a moment where he doesn't really have time to say goodbye, so he says the speed mantra so that time freezes and he can have those extra few minutes to say goodbye to her.
Yeah.
So then he's gone, and Bart Allen's like, I'm going to be the Flash now, and instantly gets taken out by Cobra.
Because he's a fucking idiot.
Because he's not ready yet.
He's a teenager. Teenagers shouldn't fight crime. I discussed this before in the Teen Titans episode. Teenagers should not fight crime.
Yes, they should.
Whatever.
So, in the DC universe, they should, not in real life.
So, Impulse gets knocked on his ass in 10
He gets
seconds.
knocked on his ass, and then we get to issue 100, which is one of my favorite issues.
Oh, it was pretty
ever.
epic.
You start off with Linda Park saying that she's dead inside. She doesn't believe in miracles, and basically she's going out in a blaze of glory in this issue.
And boy, does she ever.
Yeah.
She picks up a gun.
Yeah.
She fucking
starts going after Cobra.
Pantsuit thing and just starts mowing them down. So badass.
She goes like Sarah Connor, basically.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good comparison. Linda Park becomes Sarah Connor. It's like she mantra'd Sarah Connor's
Linda
name.
Park becomes Linda Hamilton.
There you go.
Yeah.
But so she ends up going out and wrecking shit. Pied Piper shows back up with his sonic sound gun.
Yeah, Pied Piper's jumping in and out of this series.
Pied Piper actually plays a pretty crucial role because earlier on, he's the one who does all like the science, like that mechanical engineering to help them track where Cobra is basing their head operations and where each one of these alternative energy source power plants is. So he's a pretty cool character because again, in the TV show, you only see him as evil.
No, he did.
In the alternate universe, he's good.
No, it's the main universe.
Is it
now.
the main universe?
Yeah, because when he comes back in that episode, Pied Piper is suddenly with them.
I thought that was the alternate universe.
No.
Okay. Regardless, it was really cool knowing that the fact that he was a rogue and now he is a good guy. I like that. I thought that was cool. And he plays a pretty crucial role in helping them find Cobra, confront Cobra, and then ultimately, win because comic book.
Yeah. But it's definitely more focused on the Speed characters because, again, this is the origin of the Speed.
Well, it's also, the Flash.
Speaking of which, Linda gets to Cobra finally, and Cobra kind of gets the upper hand on her because, crazy superpower machine things that's powering all of them. And Wally shows back up. Basically, like, he is lightning. He shows up.
Is he lightning or light?
I don't know.
Because, he went faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
So I just kind of assumed he was light.
I like to think that's a bit of both. Because he looks a little more jagged, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, because it's like uncontrolled.
Yeah, exactly.
Superpower.
So he shows up, he fucks up Cobra's machine, and he's gone again.
Yeah. Then everyone is gathered around. They're
everyone's
all sad,
mourning him.
But happy because they won, but they're sad because
and they're all like, "Oh, he, came back one last time to set things right."
And then, Lord and behold,
he's back.
Poof.
Yeah. So Linda sees him and she runs over to him and she's like, "Oh, we got to tell everyone else." And he's like, "Give it a minute. Like, let's just have our moment first."
Yeah.
And so he explains to her like what happened. He got pulled into the Speedforce. He's now the human with the most direct line to the Speedforce that has ever existed. It means that he's going to exhibit new abilities that no Flash has ever had before. And, basically she's like, well, if this place had all the answers and everything that you wanted, why didn't you just stay there? And he's like, well, you weren't there.
Yeah, love story.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean,
and it's really well done.
The thing is, it's not like it's bad. I was just making a joke. But the thing is, too, is this is when you first really kind of get this conceptualized idea of what the Speed Force is.
Mm-hmm.
Where these speedsters are getting their power from.
But even then, you're only scratching the surface.
Well, yeah, because this is the first time that you're getting this construct.
Mm-hmm.
This is a construct that then becomes basically a constant in everything Flash related afterward.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where my beef comes in with what we read.
Right.
So at the very end, Linda and Wally are all embraced. They're all happy that, they're back together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it necessarily gets religious, but they do refer several times to where he was as heaven.
Yeah.
Now, I have an issue with that because the way I've always kind of envisioned the Speed Force, I've always envisioned it as kind of the final force in the unifying theory of everything.
Yeah.
You have your electromagnetism, you have gravity, and then what you would have that connects all of this together in this unified theory would be the Speed Force. It's this kind of like link between every single thing that exists.
Yeah.
Multiple universes, particles, gravity, all of this. This is the link that brings them together. And the thing that always really kind of stood out of sciencey to me with that is the fact that there is a way to calculate it, which is proven by Jesse Quick, who will recite the mathematic formula to harness the Speed Force so she can go be fast.
Right.
So I've always looked at it as a very, very scientific-based notion, whereas with this, kind of elevates it to not really just scientific, but almost religious.
I don't think that one necessarily contradicts the other. I think that A is more Max Mercury's view on it. I think that's how he perceives it. But also in terms of it feeling like heaven for Wally, he literally has the entire universe coursing through his vein. He remembers very little of it when it comes out. And I think if it does have any religious connotations, it's I'm not sure if it's Buddhism or Hinduism or which
be more like Buddhism
exactly.
Because it would be enlightenment.
But exactly that whole idea of becoming enlightened and becoming one with the universe.
Yeah, no, I got that.
And I think that as a concept works, and it doesn't necessarily contradict the scientific elements.
I'm not saying it doesn't work, but what I'm saying is that I feel any religious aspect takes away from what I already had established as a science-based construct.
Well, the other thing about it too, which I think really works, especially for the character of Wally West, is that Wally West has always been very scientifically minded. And he's also always been a little bit bullheaded.
Fair.
So basically, the whole idea, and even when Max first brings up the Speed Force, Wally kind of dismisses him, even though he spends the 5 issues previous talking up Max Mercury.
Fair.
And how he's like the master. But the second, Max comes out with something that isn't purely scientific, he's like, I don't know about that.
Well, the thing is, though, he's considered the master solely because he's done it first, like before them. He went that fast before anyone else.
It's safe to say that after this story, Wally's the master.
Clearly, he was able to not only go forward, come back, but he's also able to then, from that point on, kind of excel at this power. He does become the guru.
Yeah, but he still doesn't at this point understand it all. But he still does need the mentorship of Max.
It's not that he doesn't understand. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't understand it all, but he's capable of doing it all now.
Yeah.
and it's just a matter of moving forward and pushing
Learning.
how far he's willing to go with that risk associated with it. This risk of I could end up so far in the future that I'm stuck.
Well, the only thing that really brings him back, and this is even addressed in Rebirth,
Yes.
is Linda.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good tie-in, the way Rebirth was. He's, in Rebirth, as we discussed in the special, he's running through the Time Force trying to find anyone who can pull him out.
Yeah, he's been pulled out into the Speedforce, and he's been stuck outside of it.
Yeah, and he finds Linda in the Rebirth special, and she doesn't remember who he is.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was, oh my God, she's always been the constant who pulled me out of the Speedforce.
What do I do now?
And this is where this is like the first time this happens.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is like...
Well, now you get why I was
I do.
oh man, it was heartbreaking in the Rebirth issue.
It really
Because
brings
especially
it together.
after reading this, because, honestly, I love them together. I think that they're a great couple. They work really, really well off each other.
Yeah.
And they're both very interesting and complex characters.
Well, the thing I like about them, too, is that they're partners.
Yeah.
Right? They're not just, in love. They're partners. The two of them really counter one another, It is teamwork for them. They're not just in love, but they respect each other enough where they have this almost like a balance in the relationship. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why Linda is always a constant for him. And again, this is the first time you see this really kind of come to fruition, is she's able to bring him back from this crazy force that no one understands.
They really do help each other grow as characters throughout this entire run. And honestly, I think that they are one of the best superhero couples.
Yeah, I agree.
There.
I think they're really interesting together. Again, Linda is not a damsel in distress.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of women in the DC universe, though, that aren't.
Yeah.
I'll give DC a lot of credit on that. They have quite a few characters who can stand their own. Mm-hmm. And I do like that about them. I mean, Lois Lane is the same.
Well, it depends which version exactly.
I'm talking comics. I'm not talking...
Even then, I'm saying it depends on the run.
Okay, because everything I've ever read, for the most part, she's an independent person. If you get into something like Batman vs. Superman, she's completely written off as just useless.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. But Linda it's the same idea, a strong person with another strong person together make a great unified team.
Yeah.
And
I also really like how Iris is handled in this run.
Yeah, that was interesting.
She's kind of from the future and can't really let on too much, but
yeah,
it was an interesting thing to do with her character.
I thought Jay Garrick's presence was kind of pointless.
He doesn't do much in this book. He's more just there to round out the team.
Yeah. One of the things I really do appreciate about this, though, I've talked about this before, comics can be very intimidating for people to jump into. Mm-hmm. With this set of runs, these two runs here, it's really one. Well, okay, fine.
I would consider the story really, in terms of the paperbacks, it starts at 95. But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, the story really started at 92. That's when all the Cobra stuff starts.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but what I mean is there's more of a focus on Bart Allen in the first chunk of this.
Yeah,
and then there's more significant focus on Wally West in the Speedforce in the second part,
and Linda. And
so
Max.
Yeah, it's part of the same overall arc because they do feed into each other. But I do feel that there is a division, especially because you have that DC event stuck in the middle.
Well, now, also you have in the first part of it, Wally's kind of more joking around and stuff. He doesn't quite have the pressure that he has on him in the second.
Well, one of the things I was going to say is that being a new reader who's never read The Flash before, I mean, okay, that's not true. I've read a couple things here and there.
Yeah, and you've seen the show and stuff.
So I'm not, completely...
You've never really been exposed to this part of Flash lore.
So the thing is,
these characters.
This was really easy to jump into. It does really well detailed recaps, but not overbearingly long. Mm-hmm. And with an event stuck right in between, the main reason I didn't want to read the event is because this run proves that comics, though they are intimidating, can be something that a new reader can jump into with decent ease. Having missed that event and the issue 0 that comes right after that, which kind of starts the quote-unquote second part of this arc. The recap was more than enough for me to understand what I had missed, what was crucial from what I had missed, but was able to continue on with the story without me feeling completely lost or like, what the fuck.
I was actually really interested to see how you would react to that.
It's written so well. I can't.
Mark Waid is a master of his craft.
But this is kind of my issue with,
and this was one of his first books too. Both him, Jeff Johns did a run earlier on in his career, following this one actually.
Fair.
Which is probably the perfect follow up.
Well, that's the thing, like this was so well written, and this is something I have an issue with some of the new comics. It's not that they're not well written now; it's that they've minimized the actual reading, which I find takes away from the overall story. The art is important, and we'll discuss the art of this set of comics that we just did in a few minutes.
Yeah, because I have something to say about this too.
But the thing is with the writing in this is that it's not overbearing, but it's really well articulated. It gets the words that it needs. It tells you the concept. It tells you what's going on, the story.
Yeah.
Without taking away from the art.
Exactly. And he hits all the bases, all the action bases, all like the mysterious stuff with Max Mercury's past, all the romance stuff. Like, I don't know about you, but every time I read issue 100, like, I tear up near the end. It gets me.
Oh, it's
a very emotional, like that moment with Wally and Linda at the end.
Pulls on the heartstrings. There.
Oh, very well done. Very,
Absolutely.
very well done.
And that's the other thing. It's so well balanced. There's a really good amount of action and superhuman power stuff. But there's also that balance with the human element to it. The love interest, the love story, protecting the people you care about.
And I think that's why part of the reason why I've been so hard on the book since Barry Allen came back. Because, like, even with the New 52, with things being rebooted, like, it just kind of feels like, okay, it's Barry fighting the Rogues, fighting Grodd, and, they might hit, because, I mean, honestly, Manipul and, I forget what the other guy that wrote it with him is named right now off the top of my head, but they did a good job with it, but it felt very, like, bare bones, like back to basics, and there are so many good characters, so much good lore that got thrown away, but most of all, what bothers me is that I haven't gotten that like feeling, that emotional feeling from a Flash book in years.
That's fair.
That fuck yeah moment.
Well, again, it's like you said before, he's as smart as he is and awesome as he is this virtuous, almost pious like superhero. He's like Superman in that aspect, where Superman, or in this case the Flash, can do no wrong.
Yeah.
He's always doing something amazingly altruistic because that's what he does. Whereas with Wally West, you're right, you get this normal person who, yes, happens to be able to run faster than the speed of light.
Yeah.
Ironically.
And he'll do the right thing a lot of the times, but, sometimes he'll feel desperate and he'll lie to Jesse Quick and,
He acts in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
He's impulsive.
Yeah.
Which is, I will say that for as much as I don't care for Impulse, him and Wally West do work very well together because their personalities clash so much.
Well, even in Impulse's solo book, he works really well with Max Mercury.
Fair.
They play off each other very, very well.
I can see that because he strikes me as a more conservative, calm kind of person.
Yeah, well, he's
the
very
old
into,
wise
like,
teacher.
Yeah, he's very into meditation.
Yeah. He's the guru, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and they play off very well together, but they do end up having this like really kind of cool bond together.
That's cool.
As well.
So you were talking about the art.
Yeah, the art. So Terminal Velocity has a lot of artists going through it, but the first run, The Reckless Youth, is done by the late great Mark Waringo.
Cool.
So I think that's.
I love the art in this. What the art in this makes me think of Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah.
It has a very comic cartoon feel to it, and it's like it's so well done.
But also in terms of like how much you have the characters like moving around and stuff. Like the comics and the panels are like they're very kinetic.
Yes, absolutely. And the other thing I love about this, and I've talked about this before, very easy to follow the panels.
Mm-hmm.
This entire run was, for a new person getting into comics, if you want to read The Flash, This was fucking great.
Yeah.
It recaps you on the main key things you need in like one page. The panels are not all over the place. It's a great story. It's detailed, but you get amazing art with it as well. Mm-hmm. So, as a new reader, like this was great.
Yeah. Would you be willing to read more?
I would be willing to read more, despite the fact that I hate Bart Allen and I have some issues about Wally West.
Okay. I definitely would like to do, at some point, do the sequel to this, which is Dead Heat.
Sounds good to me.
I definitely would like to. Maybe we'll even do that in Race Against Time together.
Sure.
But we'll get to that eventually.
Cool.
Final thoughts?
Great book. Great for new readers. Impulse is a piece of shit. I hate teenagers. Wally West is a hobo who needs to get a damn job. But overall, really well done. The story for this, so well written. It's almost hard to believe when you contrast this to comics now. It's almost hard to believe this is a fucking comic book. Because this is like a novel. This is like Game of fucking Thrones, man.
It's good, eh?
It is like you got all the. It's so enriching. It's like the world is so rich, and it draws on so much for this, and it's like phenomenal. So
I did not talk up Mark Waid too much.
No. I would give this out of 10 lightning bolts. We'll do 10 lightning bolts.
Okay.
Out of 10 lightning bolts, I would give this 150, which is the equivalent of probably about a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. That's not bad. This is a book that obviously I'm a little biased on because of when I got into it and what it means to me. But
it was your first.
It was my first. It was my first love.
Aww.
It really was.
So sweet.
I literally read this book and I was like, okay, all the money I have needs to go into Flash.
Take my money.
Yeah, I was going all around town trying to find every trade that I could. This series really made me fall in love with the character and made Wally West my favorite comic book character of all time.
Even though he's a bum.
He's not a bum. His job is being the Flash.
It's not a job.
He is the character in the DC universe that always dreamed of being the Flash, and he gets to do what he loves every day.
I dream of being Batman. Does that mean I get to be Batman and make $1 million?
But the whole idea is optimism, and you're a pessimist.
Yeah, that's true, I am.
So you have to look at it from an optimistic point of view.
So out of 10 lightning bolts, what would you give this?
I love Wally. Bart Allen is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about.
Teenagers.
He's a lot of fun.
Teenagers.
Max Mercury is awesome. Linda Park is awesome. Jay Garrick, even though he doesn't do much in this book, is awesome. Jesse Quick's okay. But
what? She's way more badass than Jay Garrick.
She's okay.
Way more badass. She does shit. He didn't do fuck all in this.
He was there.
He's like the old World War II vet sitting in the corner trying to tell you war stories. And you're like,
He's done plenty in the past, okay? He's done plenty. Respect your elders.
Fuck that.
But I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Holy shit. That's your second 10 out of 10 on the show.
I am not afraid to dish out a 10 out of 10 when I feel like it's
That's
worthwhile.
totally fair.
I think that it's extremely well written, extremely good, and I mean, for me, it basically opened up the entire doors of this medium for me. So if it was able to do that for me, I think it says something.
Fair enough. So that's it for The Flash. What are we doing next week, Jesse?
Next week, I think...
Or, I guess, 2 weeks.
I
keep thinking that. We're bi-weekly.
Next time.
Next
time. In 2 weeks, we will be doing Star Wars Dawn of the Jedi. We're going to be doing all 3 paperbacks, doing the whole story. Don't worry, Sean's looking at me like, what the hell? How much are you making me read? They're thin. Don't worry, it's not a lot.
Holy fuck, that's a lot of reading there, man.
But yeah, we're going to do this. I do want to do Chain Lightning in the future. We are going to do more Flash.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll do plenty more.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to gush over those ones as well. But I'm really glad that you liked this one, because it would have sucked if you would have come in here and been like 1 out of 10.
Oh wow.
We would have had an argument and a half.
That's totally fair. So that is this week's episode of Requiem Comics.
Yep. Read this one. It might be hard to find the paperbacks for this, but I know that they are starting to re-release Mark Waid's run starting in the next few months or so, they are starting to come out with it. These comics are also all available digitally. I would very, very much recommend checking them out. It's a great run. Even if you're not really into the Flash, it's a great run of comics.
Yeah,
period.
there you go. So check out our website at requiemcomics.blogspot.ca.
Yeah.
You can find other episodes on iTunes if you search Requiem Comics.
Yep, we have those.
And we're available on SoundCloud as well, so feel free to look us up on there. And if you really want, send us a tweet, Requiem_comics on Twitter.
Do it up.
Thanks.